Okay, Carol?
Okay, thank you. I do want to let the council know what's behind these two ordinances. First, what they do, and I think the intent of those who brought these to us, is to enhance public safety.
Law-abiding firearms carriers simply aren't a legitimate safety concern for the public in the city of Ashland. I'm pretty sure that the chief, if you asked him, could not show you statistics where law-abiding firearms carriers openly carrying weapons were an issue.
But we've never had a crime committed by anybody involved in an open carry situation.
And above all, to protect our children.
What kind of statistics do you have, maybe from Portland or some other cities that have enacted similar laws, that show that they brought down violence or gun crimes in particular?
I do know that there are statistics. I didn't look those up.
So just to clarify, you feel that enacting this ordinance will prevent people from carrying open, which you believe also
Loaded open carry.
Loaded open carry, which leads to gun violence, and that would
Correct.
prevent gun violence.
Correct.
The city does not have the authority to ban firearms. It only has the authority to ban the carry of loaded firearms by those people who do not have concealed handgun licenses. Anyone with a concealed handgun license can openly carry anywhere in the city, with the few exceptions that are pointed out in state law.
Local jurisdictions may adopt ordinances to regulate or restrict loaded firearms in public places. That doesn't apply, however, to a person's license to carry a concealed handgun.
Ordinance prohibiting the lawful carrying of loaded firearms and what they don't do with these ordinances is take guns from law-abiding citizens. Let's be clear about that. Now, these ordinances, I find, are directly related to our city goal of public safety. The ordinance to prohibit endangering a child by allowing access to a firearm is keeping, the assumption for that ordinance is this, that a child can never have unsupervised access to an unsecured firearm. That's what is the basis of that particular ordinance. So that's the assumption upon which it was built. And the background of this is that our citizens brought this forward, and a particular attorney in our community wrote the ordinance and modeled it we know, after Portland and Multnomah. So this is basically a grassroots democracy effort to get an ordinance before us. So let's be, that's what's happening. And I just want to remind the council that we're a council that has not been afraid of litigation. We have had a ban on nudity that we were threatened with litigation, and we have a ban on camping where we were also threatened with litigation. So just want to remind you that as a council, we've had several threats with regard to litigation.
Just for the record, I'm not afraid of litigation on bans of this and that. I think what we need to do is have decent public policy that works. So with all due respect, I don't need the reminder.
The other ordinance prohibiting the lawful carrying of loaded firearms in public places is based on the assumption that until it is proven that open carrying of weapons, especially loaded ones, can possibly lead to a better, safer, and peaceful community, then a ban on loaded open carry clearly is in the best interest of the public safety in our community. Our City Council goal.
I can guarantee you that the unintended consequence, just from the people I've talked to, of passing this ordinance will be to make Ashland the destination of choice of every open carry activist there is.
And I want to, the general public doesn't know this, we received a very heartwarming and very detailed letter from the community of Newtown. And it was their last paragraph that really touched me, that I want to share with the council and the community at large. They see that there really needs to be, and there is, a balance that can be reached, both respecting gun owners' rights while still working to ensure the safety and peace of the community as a whole. Gun owners and non-gun owners can work together to ensure that people have a right to use firearms for protection, hunting, and sport, while at the same time make sure that children are free from gun violence in their own homes, and that the community as a whole can enact reasonable regulations to keep public spaces safe. So they encourage us to think about that from a community who has experienced unbelievable suffering. So this is their word to us, and I think we as a council can definitely engage in that kind of dialogue with community input. I think we need to remember that these ordinances came from the citizens. To send them back to the citizens, I don't think is a very good message in terms if we choose 4 or 5. And I think I would like to support that we deal with number 3, that the attorney bring back to us his rendering of what these ordinances would look like and be as secure as they can possibly be in terms of any kind of litigation, and that we do that in a timely manner. I don't think we can drag this out. I think we really need to start dealing with this, and as a council, we need to make the final decision. So I would hope that we could move this forward within the next month and put a little time frame on this so that we're not dragging our feet on this particular ordinance. I just think we need to act on this.
So I agree with the idea that we would have staff come back, but I think at that point in time, we are still going to be looking at a decision, even if you do come back with well-crafted language, of whether we want to put this to the voters or not. I think I couldn't disagree more. I don't think this should be a 4-2 vote on a council. I think this should be a community values vote, and the community should vote on it. God forbid that we would stick something out there for the voters of Ashland to decide on. But that's what I actually think should happen here.
In the end, I would like to see a lot of data as to if this does work. I have some questions on my own of whether it does or whether it doesn't, but I'd like to see some numbers. And I think a business meeting is the only way to do it. And one of the big concerns I have is there's 189,000 people this has no effect on that carry a concealed handgun license in the state of Oregon. And so the question is, if that's where the crime is what we're hearing, I would like to know if this is going to be effective or not.
Mike's point that if you have a concealed weapons permit even if we do the most likely thing to succeed, that we may not have any meaningful results. And then the question is, are what we're really talking about here symbolic?
Mike also mentioned, I agree with him, some type of statistics that we can weigh and help in our analysis that would show that this either is effective or it's not effective, or some type of metric I would like to be able to look to.
How does open carry loaded firearms, the inspection, how does that relate to, for instance, the DUI statute and the right of the police to stop a car with the question of whether or not, and then the inspection of whether or not that person is intoxicated or not?
Well, if the person is weaving all over the road, then there is reasonable suspicion that there's a DUI involved and reasonable suspicion of a crime.
But a lot of times we have stations where police stop them, where they have inspections and you have to go through them. So you don't have to be weaving. You have to, it's just spot checking.
No spot checking.
Not in Oregon.
Not in Oregon.
I've got some concerns about how the officers would be able to tell if a gun is loaded by just looking at it in a holster, how they would go about dealing with the situation of being able to stop and detain someone without really having any reasonable suspicion to do it, and just the other things that go along with it from your point of view.
I have those same concerns. I'm not sure. We'd have to work out the details and probably talk to the city of Portland. We can't stop somebody without some kind of reasonable suspicion that they're violating the law. Certainly if somebody's walking with a gun where there's clearly no clip in the gun, then there would certainly be no reasonable suspicion that it was loaded, assuming you had a law that it couldn't be loaded. We'd have to talk to Portland and see what they've decided. It's the fact that there's a clip in the gun, does that now create reasonable suspicion? I don't know. I don't know if the courts have made some kind of ruling on that. I don't think so.
Do you think it would be useful to your police force to have this as an option in given circumstances?
That's a difficult question. It's really more of a question of community values than practical aspects in Ashland. In the last 5 years, we've had a total of 11 crimes involving firearms. Only 2 situations where somebody actually fired a firearm during the course of a crime. We do receive a lot of complaints when people are open carrying in some parts of town, but we've never had a crime committed by anybody involved in an open carry situation. But we've never had a crime committed by anybody involved in an open carry situation. So this is more of a statement of community values than something we're going to deal with on a regular basis.
Chief, you just mentioned a statistic. I want to make sure that I heard it correctly. You said that there have been in Ashland 11 instances of gun issues over the last 5 years. Can you repeat that?
Okay, so we're clear about that. Anticipating this question might come up tonight, we looked at all situations where we took cases involving a gun being involved in a crime. And it's possible there might be additional cases if it was a misdemeanor, for example, a menacing, where a gun was simply brandished. That might legally be a crime under certain circumstances. I don't remember that happening. But when we looked at actual felony crimes being committed with a gun, which most gun crimes would be felonies, we found 9 incidents of robberies where a gun was brandished or demonstrated. Somebody would lift their shirt and show, I have a gun, therefore give me your money. And we found 2 incidents of felony assault where a gun was actually fired.
Over the course of how many years?
That's, we ran 5 years of statistics, but that's probably 2 a year is probably about right.
If there's no issue, there shouldn't be a law.